Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Science at Home. So we hope you've been enjoying the series so far, learned a few new things. Today we thought we'd take a slightly different approach. So we thought we'd get outside, get a little bit of air, go for our short walk nearby, and we went out to see and explore what science we could find behind Mother Nature. Let's go have a look. Imagine a self-building, self-replicating factory that runs entirely on solar power. Sounds like some sort of futuristic robotic technology, doesn't it? What if I told you that that technology is already here, and it's been here for millions of years? Today we're going to take a look at trees. What is a tree really, and how does it actually work? It's so nice to sit in a big old tree. It was here long before I was born, and it'll probably be here long after me too. But sometimes it's kind of easy to take trees for granted. I was always really curious about what a tree really is, and how did it get to be here? I mean, this space that it occupies, it didn't used to have a tree in it, and now it does. So what is a tree actually made of? I mean, I know it's wood, but what is that made of? Well, to answer all these questions, we have to go right back to the very start. How did a big old tree like this come from a tiny little seed? A seed is just a holding container for chemical energy. When you ate your breakfast this morning, you stored chemical energy in your body. So we know that everything is made out of atoms. We covered that in an earlier video. But to really understand chemistry, you have to understand molecules too. A molecule is just two or more atoms connected together in a particular way. You can have two of the same atoms, or more often you can have two different atoms. The important thing to remember is when you connect these atoms up together to make a molecule, it behaves completely different than the atoms did beforehand. Understanding all these different combinations of atoms and molecules is what chemistry is all about, and what chemists are really good at. So let's take a molecule as an example. What about water? What is water really made of? If we cut water apart into smaller and smaller and smaller parts, we won't get an atom of water, we'll get a molecule of water. And that molecule, we call it H2O. That means it's made from two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. Now, hydrogen on its own is a gas, and oxygen on its own is a gas. When we combine them together, they form a liquid. Water. How crazy is that? So we can see how chemical reactions are really useful. But let's think about our seed again. It has some sort of chemical energy stored inside, but when the conditions are just right, it has heat, it has water, it's going to sprout, and a little seedling will form. But eventually, that chemical energy from the seed is going to run out. You can only do so much just on your breakfast, right? What that seedling has to do is really quickly has to try and build solar panels. A leaf is just a type of solar panel. It uses the sun's light to give energy to the tree. Okay, so now we have this seedling that's frantically built these solar panels really quickly, and they're really clever. Sometimes they can even move throughout the day to make sure that they get the best angle of the sun. Okay, we're now taking that light and giving energy to the tree, but how can the tree be built? How can we turn light into wood? Where does all this stuff come from? Have a think about that. Use your logical mind. Where do you think all of the stuff that makes this huge tree came from? Pause the video if you like and have a quick discussion with the person beside you. Well, did you get to have a think? Any ideas? Well, trees are big and strong and tough, right? And we know they have big roots that go down into the ground, where there's rocks and metals and earth and soil, and that's big and strong and tough. So for a long time, people thought that the trees were built from the ground. They soaked up all this tough, strong material underground through their roots, and they built the big, strong trees. But that's actually not the case. Trees aren't built from the ground. They take a tiny amount of material from the roots from the ground and lots of water, but the main material that builds up a tree doesn't come from the ground at all. Any ideas where it might come from? What if I told you that I'm actually floating on air? He's right, you know. It is all about air. Leaves aren't just solar panels. They're also the tree's lungs. We use our lungs to breathe in air and then breathe it back out. But what is air? It's just atoms and molecules. Now, the two we're interested in are called oxygen and carbon dioxide. So we breathe it all in, we use the oxygen, pass it around through our blood the whole way around our body, and we breathe out the carbon dioxide as waste. The trees do pretty much the opposite. They breathe in all of the air through their lungs in the leaves, and they breathe out the oxygen as a waste product. They also use the solar energy that they absorb to break apart the carbon dioxide and water that they take up in their roots. And with the two of those broke apart, they throw out even more oxygen. And then they take that carbon and they store it in the tree. So the wood in the tree is mainly made of carbon that used to be in the air as carbon dioxide. So your furniture, your wooden tables, the wooden beams holding up your roof, all the timber around you used to be air. And that's crazy. And a self-building, self-replicating, air-cleaning, solar-powered factory that is a tree turned that into solid timber. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, guys, and I hope you learned a thing or two about trees. They really are fascinating. Now, there's lots more biology and chemistry that you can look into how the tree actually works, moving stuff up and down, all that sort of stuff that you can explore more in your own time. But one last piece of advice I would give you is, if you can at all and you get the chance, you should always plant as many trees as you can. They do so much good for the environment, it's so easy to do, and your kids and your grandkids will definitely thank you. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. We had a lot of fun with this one, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Today we're going to take a slightly different approach. We're going to learn all about trees. What is a tree really? And how does it work?